My name is Alicia Garcia. I'm 19 years old and I'm from Norristown, Pennsylvania. Around the age of 2, my parents were divorced, and from then on, my mother was in and out of my life until she was just out. And from that, I had felt such rejection and abandonment, and I didn't know what that was at that age. I just knew that I was hurting, and it didn't seem like anything was going to help me. Later on, my stepmom became a part of my life, and she introduced me to God, and she raised me up in the church, and that became the foundation of my Christianity today. But at that time, it was just something that I did. I went to church, I learned about God, and it was good. I wanted God. I came to want God, but I didn't know that I could have him. I didn't know how I could have him, and I didn't have a personal relationship with him. I couldn't reach that place. And that was frustrating for me because, I've read all about him, but it just wasn't working for me. And so, for in trying to get that love from God that I couldn't get from him for myself, I put that on other people. I tried to seek approval and acceptance and that love from other people, and because they couldn't fill me the way that God could, they had failed me every single time, and it hurt. I began to just feel constant rejection, and no one understood me. And I had all these labels placed on me, ADHD and bipolar depression. I was medicated and I was put in therapy, and people tried to help me, but it wasn't mental, it wasn't physical, it was spiritual. I knew that I needed God, but I didn't know how to have him. And so I began to act out. Everything I did was wrong, so might as well do wrong. It's like I wanted to be good, but I didn't know how to get there. I didn't know how to do good. And so I just gave up on it. I started acting out in disobedience and rebellion, disrespect. And it got worse and worse until later in my teenage years, I had just exploded. And there was nothing left of me and of my want for God. It was this war between flesh and spirit, and every single time my flesh was what won, and I was tired of it, and so I just gave in. But I knew it was at the end of that road. I just didn't know how to get off of that road. And so my parents had sat me down one day, and we discussed going away. I needed help, and I knew that that's what I needed, and so I agreed. I ended up in Teen Challenge in Dixon, Kentucky, and it was a process to surrender. I didn't know how to surrender. I didn't know what that looked like or how to get there. And during my program, I saw other people come to Christ, and it was beautiful and it was amazing, and I wanted that for myself. And so I continued to seek him, but it seemed impossible. It was such a far gap that I couldn't fill myself. I couldn't get there. And one day for Father's Day in 2020, we went to Lone Star Church for service, and I knew what to expect. Growing up in church, I knew there would be prayer, I knew there would be singing, and I liked the singing, I liked the prayer, and I knew there would be a sermon. But that day was something that I could not expect, something that I didn't foresee. And there was a baptism of a lady who was going off to college, and after the baptism, they opened it up for anyone who wanted to be baptized, and the Spirit of God just moved over that place. Every single person was filled with his Spirit, and I knew that that's what I wanted. I knew that I was done with myself, and I'd reached the end of my rope, and there was nothing left of me. And so what I gave to God. I cried out to him in a way that I never had before, and I surrendered completely, and he filled me with his Spirit. I started to speak in tongues, and next thing I knew, I was down at the altar. I was praying in the Spirit with all these people supporting me and praying for me, and they asked me if I wanted to be baptized, and in that moment, I gave him my yes, all of me. I was baptized in the Spirit, and I was baptized in water, and from that day on, my life had changed. I had met God. God had met me in such a personal way, and he revealed himself to me. And ever since then, he continued to draw me closer and nearer to him, and he drew nearer to me. moved me from glory to glory, and he set me on a rock, and he took me out of the dominion of darkness and placed me in his marvelous light. I had never been the same from that moment on, and I am so grateful for him to just come down and meet this broken-hearted girl who was searching for him. In all honesty, all I wanted was him, and he filled me, and each and every day I live in his love, and I seek him, and I can feel him, and I know that he's real. I know that he loves me, and I live in that love, and there's nothing like the presence of our Creator, our Father. And every day I speak in tongues, I pray in the Spirit, and He continues to draw me further and further, closer and closer to Him. And there's nothing like it. And I am just so grateful that He met me, this little girl who was broken and couldn't find Him, but He found me.